In South Africa, it is very, very easy to get despondent when you listen to our politicians drone on, talk about the past incessantly, no ideas as to what the future looks like. It's easy to get depressed. Well, the good news is today I'm going to give you a reason to look forward to a brighter future for South Africa, because there are some truly remarkable young people out there doing remarkable things. And I've got one with me today, and I'm sure by now you've uncovered him somewhere, but if you haven't, after this interview, you're definitely going to go and look him up. And that is the Sama Sampit. Sama, welcome to the State of the Nation.
Wow, Mike. Good influence? I don't know if you'd call me a good influence, though, because majority of my viewers would call me the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Really, I thought I'm a bad influence. No child should watch me.
Yeah, look, you obviously are challenging a lot of conventional thinking, especially within the black community. That takes some courage. You must get some wonderful comments on your videos.
You can't imagine. Amazing. Where do I even start? Right? All sorts of words. They expand their insane vocabulary to strike it all at me in my comment section. And I enjoy every second of it, really.
Yeah, you don't strike me as somebody that's going to go and hide in the toilet and cry. Eh?
No, not at all. I stopped doing that the moment I started speaking on stages, really, which was in kindergarten. So it's a bit of a problem there.
Well, with that voice, you could be wherever you like. But if you haven't watched Sama's show on YouTube, it is compelling watching. He does some political commentary using some of the best analysis I've ever seen. I mean, really, I'm in awe of what he does. And your poetry in the way you put your case forward, does that just flow naturally, or do you have to sit does ChatGPT do that for you?
Well, I'll admit one thing. ChatGPT helps me with my homework.
Okay.
Right? It's as far as it goes. You'll usually just find me sitting on my desk, planning what I'm going to say, the title of the video. And that's as far as it goes. At the end of the day, you want to have the natural flow. Because if it's not natural, it's not fun anymore, right? And you want to have the fun when you do what you love. So you don't want to tarnish that storybook of yours if you're just going to be reading a script, especially if no one's funding you for it, like most of the industry plants we have. So if you want to do it all yourself, then do just that. Do it yourself. I sit on a desk. I plan what I'm going to say. I don't write it word for word, because when you do that, you're removing the fun and you're going to have to read a boring teleprompter the entire time. So I just plan the topic, the subtitles, so that I don't move off topic. I have a tendency of moving off topic if you just let me go at it right then and there. So after I do just that, I'll just let it go, really. And I was actually surprised at how, I wouldn't say good I am, at how fluent I am, really, with what I have to say.
Yeah, well, it's definitely, if you're sitting over there and you are confused about what we're talking about, on Sama's channel, which we'll put the links in the description box below, the Sama Sampit, that you have to go and find. He speaks quite openly about his political views, and they're not necessarily the kind of views that President Cyril Ramaphosa or Julius Malema would like to hear. Now, we're going to kick off just by, just giving you a flavor so that you can see what we're talking about. And what I want to do is I want to play you a clip talking about the ANC, because obviously they are still the big show at the moment. And let's see what Sama had to say about the ANC.
He has been flirting with communism and Marxism harder than a lonely teenager on WhatsApp. And no, I'm not exaggerating. They are just subtle enough for it to fly under the radar for most people. But when you zoom in, it's all there. All there. Like you finding your older sibling eat your leftovers in the fridge. Let's start with Exhibit A, shall we? Land expropriation without compensation. Yes, sound familiar? That little policy that sounds empowering on the surface. But when you actually think about it, you realize it's just Marxist fan fiction dressed up in revolutionary clothing. We are giving back the land to the people, they say. Except no land ever ends up in the people's hands. It always somehow lands in the lap of some connected comrade or cousin of a minister. They tell you it's about justice. It's about correcting the past. But in practice, it's never about the people. It's about control. In proper Marxist tradition, the ANC doesn't want citizens who do their own things. They want tenants, they want dependents, permanent renters in the national Airbnb of ANC dominance. The more reliant you are on their government grants, RDP houses, state jobs, the more control they have over you. It's brilliant. It's evil but brilliant. And then punish them under the guise of equality. They push this agenda through the media, schools, and even churches. They love to quote Franz Fanon and Karl Marx in speeches, but never mention actual African thinkers who valued enterprise or spiritual freedom. No, no, no. Those ideas are too dangerous, too liberating.
You're starting to get a flavor of what Summer has to say on his show, and you can understand why you're going to get comments. So let's start about where those comments would usually go, because I think I know that you're going to see a lot of people accusing you of being a sellout.
Right.
Yeah. That must be standard. That must
definitely never heard that word in my life.
Yeah. And that the Stellenbosch Mafia is paying you.
Stellenbosch Mafia?
Yeah.
I've never heard of them either,
Yeah.
right? I'm a law-abiding citizen.
And that you're just following instructions and you're just a white stooge, a stooge of white people.
Of course I am. I grew up with white people my entire life. Why wouldn't I defend them?
So now, you're making some pretty strong political points that people, and now I'm going to depress everybody that's watching. Summer is only 19 years old. That is terribly... That's tragic. But
now, where's the depressive part?
The depressive is when you're 3 times your age. But anyway, so you're making some pretty strong political points there. That
thank you.
That people, more advanced in your years would be way too scared to make. Maybe it is your youth that allows you to say that without thinking of the consequences, for example.
Perhaps, yeah.
But why are you making these strident views? What informs it? How do you end up with the ideology that you end up with if you're not taking instructions from someone like me?
Right. Well, God created a human being, and what a human being has that separates it from an animal is the ability to think freely. In other words, free will. You don't only learn this in religion class, you learn this in schools, the same schools that indoctrinate you to try and support the Marxist agendas they try and shove down your throat when you later on finish school and try to get that diploma. It's going to get you unemployed anyway. But nonetheless, that ability to free think motivated me by much more than it originally should have. And that made me go, well, hold on a second. What's wrong with sharing your own opinions online? Not everyone does it. Therefore, that shouldn't give you a reason to be afraid in the first place. I was never the type of child to believe in ceilings. And because I never believed in ceilings, that made me wired differently. Now, when you're wired differently, you kind of think out of the box and you think, how am I able to reach out to a wider audience that's not within my interpersonal circle? And that's when I thought about uploading my opinions online, right? People like me get canceled first because of how we are able to just freely say things without any disclaimers or so forth before the video, right? You've seen my videos all the time. I barely edit anything. I just say it as it is. And if there is any conspiracy out there about me using a teleprompter, you can watch each and every detail of the video. There is no point where you see me squinching my eyes or looking to the side to see any little bit of text I misread the first time. But nonetheless, the reason why I say the things I say is because I believe in true freedom. The true freedom that the ANC and our beloved president, who hasn't done a single wrong thing in his entire life, Cyril Ramaphosa, tries to motivate us to do, right? Freedom. The true freedom I push is the type of freedom that makes a human being think freely and have their own opinions without there having to be any consequences whatsoever. Now, the freedom they teach us in South Africa is that you should comply to the law and to what the higher officials say, no matter the consequence and no matter how garbage or diabolical it may sound. If a government official popped up at any given day and said he's going to take your land without having to talk to you about it in any given way because he's simply higher than you in state position, then you shouldn't do anything about it and you should simply comply. If that's what freedom is, then it means I have to go back to middle school. Nonetheless, that right there is the reason why I say the things I say and I do what I do. The Summer Sambit is not just a channel, it's a movement of free-thinking individuals, particularly young people, who finally want to make their own decisions and listen to each other. Most importantly, listen to each other and be the best version they can possibly be. Now, one of the ways you can be your best version is to think freely. A way of thinking freely is by expressing your opinions while also being ready to be proven wrong. At no point in my entire YouTube career, from then until now, very short time, about a year and a half, nonetheless, at no point in my YouTube career was I ever obligated to not listen to another's opinion. At no point in my YouTube career was I ever protected from an individual or an audience taking their best shot at me. In fact, every time I made a video, it was an open challenge to anyone else out there who had a problem with what I said and was dumb enough to actually say something contradicting it. And till this day, no one has been able to do that. In fact, what you do see is many people actually agreeing with what I say, because finally there is someone out there who is not afraid to say the truth. But somehow I thought the truth was what Cyril and them are telling us. You realize it's not when someone like me speaks out. When someone like me uses basic common sense and logic to single-handedly prove why what most of your government officials tell you is not true. Hence, I'm the one who burns in the fire like St. Lawrence most of the time. I'm not saying I am a St. Lawrence. I mean, I wish. But that's the consequences. One of the many, many consequences of trying to say your truth. I didn't wake up one morning and decided to start saying truth on YouTube. No, it was calculated. I thought about it every single day. It ate me up inside because I knew it was a passion I just couldn't burn away and leave to burn away in a furnace behind me. I had to take it by the neck, and I had to do what I could to make sure I got as much out of it as I possibly can as a human being, and I use it as much to my advantage. And that right there is why I always say what I say, and I always speak against the main government officials and the main agenda. It's not because I hate them or anything, but the moment it starts to hinder or be in slight contradiction to what they were trying to show us, which is true freedom, that's when people like me step in. People like me who step in to say, well, hold on now. You said A, B, and C in 1995, and now you're saying C, D, and E in 2025. What's the difference here? What happened? And what are we going to do about it? That's basically what someone like me is doing.
Oh, well said, but now...
Oh, thanks. I started there a little bit.
On the people that believe the most in freedom, they must do because they've got freedom in their name.
Right.
Much like, the Democratic Republic of Korea.
Yeah.
The Democratic People's Republic of Korea has got democratic.
The People's
in their name.
Republic.
The people's,
it's for the people.
It's all the people. And in South Africa, we've got a party that's got freedom in their name.
Oh, yeah. The economic freedom fighters.
Yes.
Best
and
party
they
ever.
want freedom, and they want you to have economic freedom.
Definitely, yeah.
Right? And
why wouldn't they?
Yeah, you kind of have a view on them and a view on the songs that they like to sing. So I want to play the two clips, one talking about the Kill the Boer song and another talking about Julius Malema. Let's see what you had to say.
EFF race merchants are playing a dangerous, wicked and divisive game with this, and South Africa is the chessboard. And we, the ordinary people, we are the pawns in this massive chess game. Sure, they call it freedom of speech. They say it's just a struggle song. They tell you that it's all part of dismantling structural inequality and economic apartheid. But let me ask you something real. Since when did kill the Boer, kill the farmer become a policy strategy? Since when did chanting hatred, glorifying violence, and weaponizing identity become the new normal? Just to flip the script, just imagine a white political leader in South Africa standing in front of thousands of people, chanting anything remotely similar to kill the black man. Would it be tolerated? Would the media call it cultural song? Would they say it's taken out of context? Hell no! They would be protests, petitions, international outrage, and rightfully so, because hate is hate. So why does Malema get a free backstage pass? Why is he allowed to openly weaponize racial pain for clout? Why is he allowed to do it and not anyone else? Let me tell you something. This is not random. This is not some spontaneous thing. This is well calculated. Malema knows exactly what he is doing. He knows anger wins votes. He knows victimhood attracts headlines. He knows division breeds loyalty. So he digs deeper into the racial wound. He rips open history not to heal but to infect, to manipulate and to control and to amputate. And the result is a generation of black youth growing up not with hope but with hatred, not with solutions but with slogans. Where are the adults in all these situations? Where are the so-called leaders who should be standing up to this nonsense? Oh, that's right, they're in it too. Where's the ANC? Where's President Ramaphosa? Where are the business leaders, the artists and the icons? Silent. Cowards in suits, because they know it's wrong. They know it's dangerous. But they say what? Nothing. Why?
I don't know if you've seen any politician brave enough to make those kind of statements, but some is out there making those statements, and they must give you wonderful comments from the EFF supporters.
Can't imagine. Leaves a smile on my face every night knowing I have an exam in school tomorrow. You know, I always used to say I'd so much rather go bald in middle school than ever even bother or even think of stooping down to the EFF's level. The level of the economic freedom fighters who have stooped themselves so low, it's almost embarrassing, especially for the people that actually support them, the so-called black supremacists and proud black South Africans who support these people fighting for this great, great economic freedom led by none other than their massively worshipped cult leader, Julius Malema. I'm not going to stoop to their level, also because I'm not trying to protect them. The economic freedom fighters have been protected long enough. They've been protected since day one, since the very day they were founded, and were doing nothing but cause fights and promote nothing but degeneracy and human indecency in nowhere else than Parliament itself. They've been saying for months now that Summer Sambit sold out to the black people. Summer Sambit sold out to the whites, and now he speaks for the whites and so forth. I don't sell out to anyone. I bury deception and evil. I speak out against lies and deceit. And because of that, I said in front of the entire world, with a yellow pillow behind me, with no fear whatsoever, I said that Julius Malema is nothing but a calculated, slimy pickpocket who thinks just because he stole the blueprint from the ANC Youth League 10 years ago, he thinks he can run the kingdom. There's your why, everybody, in case you're wondering why my case is on the EFF so much more than you think. You strip away the red berets and the red uniform, there is nothing to see there but a bunch of meaningless degenerates who do nothing but glorify the idea of killing people of a different race. That's all the EFF has existed for, and that's all they will continue to exist for. Nothing but chaos and destruction. They act completely against what their actual name is. They are not fighting for economic freedom. They are fighting for chaos in civilization, and they will stop at nothing to do so. You know, content creators like myself have never sold out to anyone. And because of that, we have worked way too hard. We have put way too much effort just so that some paint-by-numbers sociopathic nepo babies like Julius Malema and his tenderpreneur friends can come around and start deceiving the masses, telling them about how evil and white and how much of coconuts people like myself are, and how he preys on the very vulnerable poor individuals in many different parts of South Africa, just so that he can fuel his own Marxist hidden agenda. There is nothing to see in the EFF except for a group of people with red berets who desperately need direction. That right there is what the economic freedom fighters are. Until this day, I stand by what I've said in every second within that YouTube video. You can replay any part of that video, and I will be more than happy to explain what I've said, why I've said what I said, pardon my Greece, about Julius Malema and the rest of his so-called bandits. That's what I like to call them. The red beret wearing bandits who do nothing but promote violence and genocide, like what Trump said in Cyril Ramaphosa's face in the Oval Office. And if it wasn't true, that meeting wasn't going to be held in the first place, and I wouldn't be here being asked by a great individual like yourself on why I speak out against this. And because of the many things the EFF tries to indoctrinate our people with, it tells me one thing. Just like I expected from the very beginning of the formation of the economic freedom fighters, you have a group of desperate, lonely poor people whose minds are filled with more feces than facts. Instead of fighting for economic freedom, these people are making empires for the billionaires who fund them. And not only that, steal money from the very people they claim to fight for. Every time a Julius Malema scandal comes up, it is swept under the rug, faster than Scheme Sam fell off in the last year. Every single time there is a scandal against Malema or any one of these famous government officials, we're always told something will be done about it. We're told about state capture, Chief Justice Raymond Zondo and so forth, as if he wasn't paid before the actual session. And it's just doing this so that it can be a great theater for everyone watching at home so that we can all be convinced that something was actually done about these guys, knowing that nothing will be done about them as long as people like myself don't speak up. As long as people like myself don't speak up, we as South Africans will be left with no choice but to comply with anything a government official says, even if it means your very own president flying to the United States and saying to Donald Trump's face that there is no such thing as crime against whites in South Africa. And also saying on public television in front of the entire world to see that there is nothing wrong with the Kill the Boer song. You heard that? There is nothing wrong with the song that glorifies the idea of killing someone who is not your color, let alone someone in a racial minority. And just like that, that's how you know there is a problem with sociopathic, underwhelming, mediocre Nepo babies who are so into themselves. They sing a racist song, an openly racist song in front of the entire world to see. I'm not criticizing what they stand for. They have their rights to their own opinions, just like I do. It's what they stand for that represents who they truly are. It's not the red beret I'm insulting. It's what the red beret represents that exposes them, that has exposed them in front of the entire world for what they truly are. Nothing but errand boys that got lucky because they managed to please the right people up there. And now they will be forever funded just so that they can continue to push a false narrative to the very desperate people who always look for change. Go to any university. The EFF is the #1 party that influences majority of our youth. For many reasons. The youth are oppressed in South Africa. Over 70% of our young people are unemployed. There are 70% of young people right now with degrees, with diplomas, what you may call it, GCSEs, matric results, who are sitting at home right now watching this interview, who have a glimmer of hope inside them because of the things you and I have said here. The 70% of our youth in this country who are sitting at home, not doing anything, because of what they've been promised and not what's been done for them. I'm not saying a youthful person should just sit around waiting for a job opportunity, but there comes a time in every business transaction where you do your part and it is time for the next party to do theirs as well, and you tell me if I'm telling lies. The ANC has not done their part, and you're sure as hell the EFF hasn't as well. All the EFF has done is do the complete opposite of why they were founded. They've done nothing but start chaos. Every single year you see the EFF starting fights in parliament. That is not a good example for the youth. What, just because it brings emotion, I'm supposed to stand for it? Or because majority of EFF supporters are black people, I need to automatically be there? That's the problem with South Africans. There is a toxic relationship between the people and the people that control the people. It's not a good relationship. It's like a toxic ex you just can't leave because he always blinds you with nostalgia and how good times were between the two of you. Blinding you from the fact that you leaving that relationship could be the best thing you've ever done in your entire life. There's your why. And that's why I always stand against the EFF. Not because I'm some political activist who does this for a few dollars. I will do anything but ever stoop to that level. But because I'm someone who stands for their opinions and is more than happy to be proven wrong at any given time. But unfortunately, until this day, no one has come forward and told me that what I've been saying is a complete farce to what I stand for. I'm a man of God, and God does not judge his people by color. A man should not see color in his own brothers and sisters. It is a black person's land we are on. It is a white person's land we are on as well. History is another topic for another day, but you cannot keep living 24/7 every single day, 365 days a week, 365 days a year, pardon my Greece, thinking about history and how things could have been. You think like that, you won't achieve anything in life. And that's why individuals like myself are here, and that is why I stand against the EFF. They do not stand for the future.
Well, I think that's pretty well said. I'm sure everybody will agree with me. Well done.
Thank you.
Some of that was. So let's move on from the parties that you have spoken against.
Yeah.
And let's talk about your vision of the future, right?
Right.
What you see. This isn't a political commentary. This is a question to Summer himself. How do you see South Africa progressing out of the situation we find ourselves in? The situation where we look backwards only, we never look forward, where we've got those 70% of our youngsters unemployed, no economic growth, a real president telling another president that we don't have a genocide, in fact, we murder everyone, which has got to be the craziest thing I've ever heard. But
Right.
But what would be your vision for the future? Because a lot of people are going to start looking to you, not to they know by now what they're voting for in the EFF and the ANC.
Yeah.
But what are the solutions as you see it?
So one of the many ways someone can fix a problem is by acknowledging that there's a problem in the first place. I'm sure you'd agree with me on that. Another thing is, now that you've acknowledged there's a problem, you need to look at every possible solution you can have, or everything you have within your current circumstances, to try and look forward to see what you can do about it. Now, here's the problem with South Africans. They don't even acknowledge they have a problem. Majority of South Africans are sitting there watching this right now, thinking this kid is doing nothing but talking gibberish, and this great man has given him the platform to say it, which is the worst thing he possibly could have done. Right? So instead of acknowledging they have a problem, they sit there and continue to criticize who is trying to save them. But at the same time, I'm not saving you from everyone who's trying to influence you around you. I'm saving you from yourself. I'm saving you from the you that is a result of listening to all the other diabolical individuals who push a certain narrative on you, let alone having pushed a certain narrative on you since the very first day you were on this earth. Now, there's many different solutions and there's many different visions I have for South Africa. Unfortunately, not all of them are good. Because as an aspiring businessman and as a YouTuber myself, you always need to look at the pros and cons of things. What are the pros of me doing this? Well, here's my vision. I see a South Africa of free, independent thinkers, of people who can stand for themselves, say what they want to, not because it's unnecessary, but because they want to be proven wrong. They want to be challenged. They want to get better and better every single day. I see a South Africa that can not only think for itself, but is also trained in not only free thinking, but more of their actions. A South Africa that is God-fearing once again. Once you're God-fearing, you have morale once again. And once you have morale, it is very easy for you to move forward in life. I also see a South Africa of many individuals who have done nothing but think for themselves and also create their own job opportunities. So instead of complaining that there's no opportunities from the very individuals that try to indoctrinate you in the first place, you can also create them and try and assist your own communities. Long story short, I see a South Africa of individuals who help each other, individuals who don't see color, individuals who don't rely on one another, who are not dependent, who are not completely independent either, but what I like to call interdependent. You don't rely completely on the other person, but they would be of great help to you, and you would be of great help to them. An interdependent South Africa of free young thinkers, young and old, sharing lessons from old and now. A South Africa of different people of all colors, all races, all cultures, all God-fearing, moving together, moving forward. Only then will we truly achieve what we saw as the South African dream in 1995 in the end of apartheid. It's definitely not what's going on now. And you know it's bad when we're blinded by nostalgia as well. The bad vision I was telling you about is a South Africa of dependent thinkers who think everything needs to be done for them and who give no one else the platform to speak for themselves because they only rely on one person, and those are the people who claim to feed them every single day. Whereas in all honesty, they feed them the very crumbs of what they could be feeding on and what they could be building in their lives to come. That South Africa is unfortunately what's going on now. On my way here, I saw little bit of Parkhurst and Newlands, completely different to what it looked like 10, 20 years ago. I wasn't alive at the time, but I'm also not dumb enough to sit there and do nothing about it. I was also free thinking enough to actually look into it, research how Parkhurst and Newlands looked before 1995. One of the many disadvantages of how things used to be around here, one of the many ways in which things have fallen off, not because of lack of funds or racism or whatever garbage they try to shove down your throat nowadays, but because of our lack of self-accountability, our lack of free thinking has caused us to not only believe that our government officials cannot do what they said they were going to do 30 years ago, they've made us believe we can't do it either. The bad vision is a South Africa of dependent people, poor, vulnerable people, a great gap between the rich and poor, and the poor being constantly exploited by the parties that want to milk as much money and resources from them as they possibly can, and a South Africa where government officials will continue to do nothing but act as a mafia to a country whom they held hostage many, many years ago. Obviously, I'd go for the first option, right? The right vision I saw. But how do we attain that vision? We attain that vision once we acknowledge we have a problem and once we do whatever we can to build and move forward to it. I'm not saying this will be achieved overnight. Unfortunately, I am from a generation that wants instant success. You want to achieve my vision, then instant success is not the way to go, because that will burn just as fast as you got it. I'm talking about long-term achievement, long-term thinking, long-term planning, long-term strategizing, long-term achievements, things you'll be proud of 20 years, 30 years to come, things you'll be able to look back at and say that right there is why South Africa is the glorious place it is right now. If we can finally start to accept free speech, if we can finally start to question everything and everyone around us, if we can finally start to flip the script, as I always like to say within my Realm of Reason Discord server, only then will we even start moving towards the true vision I see of South Africa, which is a South Africa of a united people that can do what they always wanted to without being limited mentally by anyone that dares to try and milk whatever they can from them.
So you're talking about psychological resilience amongst our black
Correct.
population.
Yeah, that is the number one.
Which was apartheid's most evil trick,
Correct.
which was to hurt the psychology of black people,
Yes.
and this government has done nothing to repair that.
No, they haven't. They haven't. In fact, what they have done is convince us with the fact that there is no psychological damage done whatsoever, and all that needs to be done is just economic fixing, some funding, and some more debts being borrowed from other countries, and the country will be spick and span in no time. They haven't told us about any psychological effect unless you actually take the time to sit down and think about it, which is actually a shame, really, because one of the many reasons apartheid stayed in so much power is because of the psychological effect it had on black people. There are black people who are still there today who have long-lasting effects from apartheid, not physical at all. It's psychological. It's all a mind thing. The war is in the mind and the price is the soul. You look at all the computers and all the modern technology that has done nothing but enhance the psychological oppression on our people instead of do the complete opposite, which is to psychologically empower them. But as long as you have a group of South Africans who will always believe that the impacts of apartheid have gone as far as physical and no further, you will always have psychological oppression and you will never move forward as a country, which is actually really sad, because what that tells me is that you have a group of South African tax-paying citizens who believe there's nothing wrong with the way they think. There is nothing wrong with them not questioning anything, let alone just complying and saying yes to everything their government officials say. And that's when you know you have a problem. When you're told psychological effects and psychological power is taken from you, and then you do absolutely nothing about it. Right? One of the many reasons the current powers have so much power over us is because they've convinced us to think they don't have any psychological power over us at all. The moment we realize they actually do have this mental leverage on us, that is the very moment we can actually move forward, stand up and say, I do not believe what you say, and before I do, I will definitely question it. That right there is what we need to change. Before you fix a problem, you need to acknowledge there is a problem. And acknowledging that problem is acknowledging the fact that many of us South Africans are psychologically impaired, psychologically disabled, and psychologically oppressed even though we weren't born during apartheid. It was a generational, man-made curse that was put on us deliberately to always have the long-lasting effect on the black people, the other racial minorities. But fortunately, you have some who have actually woken up from the coma, some who've actually asked questions like myself and who are able to try and help others. But remember, at the same time, Mike, you can take the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I can only do so much. I can only tell you there is a psychological oppression going on in your head. There's a psychological war, and the price is your soul. They are out for your soul. They don't want you or your body. They want your soul. They want complete control over you. They want to tie those mental chains on you as much as possible. I can tell you all that, but it's also your duty to listen to what I'm saying and then actually break those chains, break free from the mental oppression and be your own self. Unlock your true potential. Be the best version of you have to be. Your ability to wake up every day and ask yourself what I did today that makes me better than yesterday can only be done the moment you break those mental chains. But you can only do that. It's not me. I'm not here to hold your hand. I'm here to tell you how to do things. You can get the person a fish or you can teach them how to fish. Once you teach them how to fish, you have supplied the person with fish for a lifetime. I'm not the first person to say such a statement, but I know I'm not the last either. There's many people out there who need to watch this. There's many people out there who need to hear what you and I have to say, because if they don't, they will forever be oppressed and they will never have known how far they would have gone in life if they didn't listen to many of the false doctrinations they were taught from a very early age.
So if you're thinking of typing a comment in there calling Summer a sellout or a stooge of white monopoly capital, just think carefully as to whether that's really what you're thinking as you're watching this, or whether you think that that will suit the agenda of the person that told you that this kind of language is some kind of mental oppression that Summer suffers from.
Correct.
Summer, I want to just move to a trend that I'm seeing, which is a fairly recent thing. And to me, you're just, part of this movement.
Yeah.
And that is towards young black South Africans that are now, especially in the podcasting space, but not only, that are now actually taking a different trajectory to much of the thinking of the past, that are challenging the victimhood status, the mental oppression that we talk about, that psychological debilitation that we've suffered in this country for 80 years. Are you starting to detect that there's a movement building, that it's not just you and a few others, that there are other people that this is actually resonating with?
It's actually a really good question. And I'd say yes, I am. Surprisingly, there's a movement of free-thinking young individuals who are saying what they want to say, being open to, to being able to be criticized, just like I wanted, which is actually really surprising for me, because what that tells me is that there were a bunch of individuals who were listening to me. But just like any movement, Mr. Sham, you'd also know that every movement has its flaws and nothing comes perfect. There's always a disadvantage to something. And the main disadvantage I've seen to this is a lot of phonies, hopping up online. There's a difference between a free thinker and someone who promotes free speech and an actual sellout. There's a difference between an alleged sellout like myself and an actual sellout. And you can clearly see the difference between the two if you're someone who thinks for yourself. I'll give you an example. There's many young black influencers like myself who have seen that the political niche is very profitable because they've seen individuals like myself talk about it and sometimes profit from it. And because of that, what they do is that they get into the space with no research whatsoever, put on a shiny suit and start saying what they think, putting shells around themselves because they don't want any criticism whatsoever, completely tarnishing the vision I had in the first place. They see themselves as these messiahs who come and give the gifts to the people, the oppressed people, which is definitely not what I was trying to push. I'm trying to motivate people to think for themselves. I'm not saying become a messiah who sees themselves as nothing but a beacon of hope for the vulnerable. No, I'm not going to accept your gift because you haven't earned the right to give it. I was talking with another influencer the other day. He has less subscribers than myself. And we had a little debate about how he does things. I told him straight to his face, you cannot be claiming to be promoting free speech Whereas you're doing nothing but promoting clickbait articles, clickbait videos, just because it's going to get you views and money, while deceiving the people, making them think you're actually talking for yourself. I'll give you an example. The white genocide topic has been a hub of immense profit for some of these phonies. You see people uploading 5 videos a day on the white genocide in South Africa, saying things that haven't happened at all. There's nothing wrong with giving a prediction. There's a problem with saying it's happened already. You see these phonies saying Elon Musk is going to start a political party in South Africa. Just the most ridiculous clickbait content you can think of. I'm not criticizing other people who are rising behind me, because I know what it's like to be struggling with 500, 600 subscribers, trying to make a name for yourself. But at no point in my entire YouTube career was I ever so desperate I started using clickbait and lies to get to where I am. And because of that, at no point will I ever motivate someone of my generation or younger or even older, someone behind me, to do the complete opposite of what I have done, which is lie to the people. I'm here to say truth. So if you're going to try and do what I do, but be a cheap copy of it and make a lie, then you're not doing what I do. In fact, what you're doing is you're doing what the people you're trying to oppress are doing, but you're just doing it in a much lower level. So you'll be seen as a much lesser version than they are. I'm not saying this to criticize any upcoming influencer or anyone who thinks there's some truth they have to spit out there. What I am saying is that at no point should you feel as you're some messiah who has to give a gift to the people. They're not going to accept your gift because you haven't earned the right to give it. They're not also going to watch you because they don't believe you. In fact, what they will do is that they'll eat you alive because they'll have a lot of questions to ask regarding your views, your strange views which are not backed up at all. I'll give you many examples. There's small YouTubers who are doing the same thing I'm doing. But here's the problem. There's nothing wrong with doing the same thing as the person you look up to is doing. But there's just one key detail they always miss. I say it all the time. I say it in my videos. I say it in my YouTube channel. I even say it in some of the live streams I've had with wonderful people like Ronaldo Gauss and Kwazemi Esse. You need to be authentic. You need to have soul. You need to have passion. You must be legitimate in what you say. You must be legit with what you say. You must be able to back it up, because people can see through phony. They will see through your BS and they will question it. And before you know it, your success will burn just as fast as you got it. I tell these youngsters all the time, you need to be authentic. Be yourself. Say your truth, but be yourself. People can see through phony. They don't listen. And what they do is you see these many fake YouTube channels of over-polished, over-rehearsed individuals who are so into themselves. They accept any sponsorship they can, and who are also so into themselves, they go as far as lying, downright lying to their own audiences, the own little audience that took time off their day to watch them about whatever's going on within current affairs. And that right there is what annoys me, because I didn't see this coming. Obviously, like a leader, you should always see bad things coming, but I honestly didn't see a bunch of phonies as a disadvantage to this movement. The summer movement is not a messiah cult relationship. It's a movement of free thinkers who think for themselves and want to make their own decisions. At no point in my plan did I ever think there were going to be some people who would be so greedy they would try and get some of this great money I get for myself because there's some people pulling my strings behind me as well. At no point did I ever think that was going to happen. And that was very ill of me, because what that tells me is that also plays a part of that also proves my inexperience. I'm only 19 years old. There's an entire lifetime ahead of me. There's so much for me to learn. And this is one of the many learning curves that I've gone through on this fantastic journey of YouTube. There will just be people who will try to duplicate what you do and make a much lesser version of it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you see why we have got the summer Zumbit onto the State of the Nation, because we need to hear voices like this, and it does give us hope for the future. But he has created an impression on people, so much so that somebody even made a song for you.
Right.
Right?
And boy, oh boy, do we love it.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to thank Pace Car Rental who sponsor and keep us on the air. Thank you so
Wow.
much. And
So they're the guys who made these nice cups.
they're the guys that bought these nice cups.
Amazing.
They rent cars, but you
Wow.
can get a discount on a car rental. Go there and use our code SONA.
I'm about to get my license, so no. That's
So,
definitely coming.
Like and subscribe the Summer Sumbits channel and the State of the Nation. And let's play out with the song that somebody made for you, Summer. So we'll get our guys to cue that up as we go out. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. And thank you, Summer, for coming in.
Thank you so much, Mike. Hopefully this is, the first of many. It's been a fantastic opportunity for me to actually get here. I used to dream of doing stuff like this. As a kid, I'd always dream of being in podcasts and, going viral. And now I have that feeling again, except this time I'm not closing my eyes, right? See, Mom, the yellow pillow's right here. So, it's not a clone. It's not a phony. And no, they didn't put anyone here to replace me. No, it's me, right? The cross is here. It's me. Thank you, Mr. Sham.
Thank you
We'll
so
always
much.
appreciate
We'll see you again. Thank you.
Definitely.
This time I stand not your puppet, not your prophet, he's your mirror. They told him choose a side, he said I choose truth. Not here for spin, not a high-fed youth. He walks between fire and fools with pride. Speaks what the cowards always try to hide. No skin badge, no party pin, just facts so sharp they slice through sin. He's not here for applause or fame. He's a voice unbranded, burning in flame. He don't break, he don't beg, his words walk where the leaders fled. No disguise, no pretty lies, just summer staring in your eyes. He speaks for all, not bought, not small. This summer Sambit, standing tall, not black, not white, but logic's flame, burning in truth, not chasing fame. From Cassie lanes to marble halls, his voice breaks down the silent walls. He speaks for all, no fear, no fall. The brave, the broken, he speaks for all. He ain't about vibes, he's about vision, breaking the chains of a man.